แล้วจังคอยฟังโอ้ยละนา Somebody Lady and gentlemen The boy and the girl I saw sing เซิงบองไฟ
Good evening and welcome to ABC Radio National. March 26, according to the Gregorian calendar, of course. The Gregorian calendar was introduced by Pope Gregory XIII. And if you're listening, keep up the good work. Tonight, keeping in accordance with the ABC Charter, in which they have to broadcast programs that contribute to a sense of national identity and inform and entertain and reflect the cultural diversity of Parramatta. We'll be doing that alongside three esteemed gentlemen joining me once again in the Lonely Hearts Club. One for the first time, losing his virginity, but it's lovely to see you once again, the esteemed second unit director, Duncan Jardine.
Good evening, Richard. Good evening, Lonely Hearts, everyone on the panel, and to anyone who might be listening tonight who's on their own, feeling a bit depressed, who might be seriously considering calling the speaking clock just to hear the sound of a woman's voice. And I think we've all done that. I tell you what, after 11 p.m, it goes a bit fruity.
Wonderful to welcome them into the club once again. We are, of course, also joined by a gentleman who's simply known by his Christian name, his fame in the literary section. However, we like to refer to him by his full name, Wesley, lowercase d, lowercase e, capital S, Deshawn. Welcome back into the club, poet Wesley Deshawn.
Thank you, Richard. Konnichiwa, namaste, hola, ni hao.
Wow. I do love pidgin English. That's great to hear it on ABC Radio National.
That's not a catchphrase, is it, Wesley, your lordship?
No, but obviously Lucas...
Yeah, he's had a bit of trouble.
I believe he got beaten around there with a bar.
For Wang Chung. I think his last catchphrase, let's punch on Dimitri, was perhaps poorly chosen with regards to people attacking him in the street.
Well, especially people called Dimitri.
I know, it's asking for trouble.
And, of course, Lucas Dawson, our fellow Lonely Hearts Club host and member, the choreographer to the regional theatre. Catchphrase was everybody Wang Chung tonight. However, he dropped the everybody, thought he'd make it his own, and of course upset some people in the Riverina section.
Paid the price.
Paid the price.
Dancehall Days is code for punch on.
Punch on. The other silent, yet dare I say, amorous gentleman in the room, joining us for the first time since we all met at the Hossam Foundation, the Homosexual Men, the Healesville chapter, an emotional and social awareness and well-being program. Perhaps I should let him introduce himself, but we simply know him as Olaf Pinchelbury. Olaf, wonderful to see you all the way over here from Glenelg in South Australia.
Carpe Meridianus. Let me say that I am a Latin teacher, as you know, and it's a bit of a catchphrase of mine.
Yes.
It means seize the afternoon.
Seize
sort of
the
adapted
afternoon.
it from Robin Williams. If you're not into mornings, you concentrate your seizing into 3 or 4 hours.
It's always a great pleasure to be around intelligent people, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about how your love life has been since we all met at Healesville. Tonight we have a very exciting lineup of guests joining us here on the club. We are, of course, going live right around Australia until midnight. It's just after 10 now. We are joined, very surprisingly, by the naturopath to the stars, Sally Mathrick. She's coming back in, wondering what she'll be wearing this evening. We'll be chatting with lady expert Phoebe Squared about music and love. And we've also got last year's Archibald Prize winner, Sam Leach, is coming in to talk about the art of love. But before we do, it's time to hear 17 seconds of sublime synthetic ivory synth. Sounds so good. What are you doing? Beautiful stuff. That was from 1987. What were you doing in 1987, Olaf?
1987, I was doing my first Latin stand-up comedy show at the Adelaide Fringe, in front of Alexander Downer and Christopher Pine.
Wow.
They're the only audience members, but it went down well.
How many stars did you get? Peter Goers?
Wasn't rated, he didn't get to it, but it was based on the ribaldry of Catullus, for anyone who likes bawdy Latin limerick.
Is it true that Downer heckled in Latin?
He did, he's very good at heckling in Latin. I came out as the god Priapus, as you know, a god famous for his engorged and
Christopher
large...
Pine would have loved that.
Yes, genitals, so wearing a codpiece. So it was, wasn't rated though.
So it was a theatre restaurant, wasn't it?
It was, well...
Family theatre restaurant. Yeah.
I do have a Latin theatre restaurant ready to go called Eunuchs in Tunics,
Yes.
starting in West Torrens next month.
Really?
Wow.
I'm there.
Get on board.
Anything for vegetarians?
There's some fried locusts on
Great.
the menu.
Plagues.
Thanks.
All hail the locusts.
Everywhere was the song by Fleetwood Mac from the album Tango in the Night. It's beautiful stuff, that. They're British-American, always pushing the boundaries in
You know,
innovation.
if you listen carefully to that song, you can just hear Stevie Nicks' septum pop and go all together.
Wow.
It's great.
You can do
Rare.
that by downloading our podcast this evening of tonight's program, our 7th out of 8 on March 26th here. March 27th, 12:01am. You can get onto our website via abc.net.au/rn/The Lonely Hearts Club and pirate that podcast. Or perhaps, if you like, we'll perform the show exactly as we have once again, back to back, for those in Western Australia.
Can I just say, Richard, what a treat it is, firstly, to have Wesley back with us after his appearance a couple of weeks ago. We had a lot of people call in wanting to know if they could buy the book of your poetry cycle. I understand it's a limited printing.
Now, Return to Gondor, it is home printed, and
Yeah, how many copies have you bashed out?
52.
52.
Wow.
Although 48 are probably the best 48. The last 4 are a bit smudgy.
Right. And I know great poetry events on the calendar. Wesley always trying to popularise poetry. That event you had going at the Dingley Powerhouse in Melbourne,
Yep.
where you combine poetry and robot wars. What a great way to reach out to the general public. I don't know how successful it was.
Look, it wasn't as successful as I would have liked because we were particularly focusing on Percy Bysshe Shelley, which
yeah.
for mine, he speaks to today's generation.
Right.
But as it turned out, most of the kids that came along only wanted to have robots shooting each other.
Just wanted to have cyborgs bashing away.
Yeah, so I felt in the end, had it been Percy Cyborg Shelley, it might have worked better. So
Yeah.
the whole thing was a little bit of a letdown.
Bit of a fizzer. Do you think you're fighting a losing battle getting
No.
the general public
No.
to be interested in poetry?
Not at all.
No?
I think the only thing that's stopping it is Les Murray.
Oh, right, okay.
The soccer commentator?
No, the
other
so-called poet.
Wow.
He and I, as you know, have had our differences. He called me the pentameter pirate. I call him the whore of the haiku.
Wow.
And I think he is what's stopping the Australian, because they look at him and they think, that's grotesque. I don't want to hear what he has to say.
And that's supposedly as good as it gets.
That's right.
what they're told.
Yeah.
Wesley, is this actually true, or are you, forgive me for inferring perhaps, or even stating that you're just engaging for some hyperbole for your upcoming wrestle against Les at Eastern Creek in May of this year?
Well, it's not just me and Les. Obviously, Bruce Dorr is going tag, and he comes off the ropes. So it's a poetry slam. I've talked to you about this before. And
Judith Wright holding up the round numbers in a nice
the
sequin
estate of
bikini.
Judith Wright.
I understand you've got Les Murray and Judith Wright. I don't understand why Mahatma Kota's involved, personally. Is that a stab at popularism? I don't know.
Mahatma is obviously leading the Breakaway Poetry League.
Oh, okay,
And there's a lot of interest in that. He is using robots, Pakistani-themed robots.
Good luck to you, because, I mean, I think poetry needs all the help it can get.
Well, thank you, Duncan. Appreciate that.
Wesley, I was going to ask, as a Latin scholar, do you get into epic poetry? I once did a reading of Virgil's Aeneid, went for 3 days. I broke up the stanzas by playing the lyre. Do you get into the long-form element of poetry, or is it...
I think Virgil's overrated. To be honest, I slipped a disc reading Virgil when I was younger. So I
It's
don't.
very heady at
yeah,
times,
I
yeah.
don't think it's something you take. I admire the fact, Olaf, and I love your dedication to Latin. If I may, I've written a small poem to celebrate
Fantastic.
your Latin, and because I too am a Latin scholar. And this is from my new book. It's called Bringing My Heart to Heal, Heal.
Wow. Okay, take notes. Listen and take notes, Les Murray.
Okay, this is a Latin poem. all right?
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, with a Latin poem, Wesley, lowercase d, lowercase e, capital S, Deshawn.
Caveat emptor, teasing temptor, lingua franca, me, a wanker, et tu brute, no give root, eh? Ipso facto, our love's cacto.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
Fantastic. Well, that's, they say in Latin, fame volat. Fame gives you wings, Wesley, and you can just tell you're flying with that poem. Brilliant.
TDM.
Spoke to me.
This is great.
Thank you.
Richard, this is like being back at the sanctuary, the four of us, me, yourself, Olaf, Wesley, of course, Dallison, Lucas Dawson, Terry Wood, Dr. Brenda Norris and Roger Cunnington, all squeezed into the flotation chamber.
The flotation tanks under the guidance of Estelle Gatenby to play Whose Hand Is That? Of course, the salinity was incredibly high that night in the salt seawater that we lay there, perfectly cooked at 37 degrees, so it felt like we were flying with one another. It was great fun. Of course, Latin, a highly inflected language, isn't it, Olaf? 3 distinct genders. One of them's even location-based.
Well, yes, a lot of declensions in Latin. And, there's no distinction between heterosexual and homosexual in ancient Rome, which I know that
Right at the time.
As indeed there isn't here at the ABC.
Precisely. Great to meet you guys in Healesville. As you know, I am from Adelaide, from West Torrens, and I was as surprised as anyone when the magistrate set the restraining order at 800 kilometres. I think it was at first, but the summons was in Roman numerals, DCCC, which I thought was a nice touch.
And Olaf, I notice the spelling of your name. It's O-L-A-F, but above the O, it's not an umlaut, it's not a tremor, it's a macron. Can you talk us through the macron, or would you like me to?
Well, look, I think you've got something to say, Richard, so tell us about the macron.
Well, for the macron lovers out there, it's a diacritic placed above the O to elongate, or a vowel generally, as opposed to the modified triangular colon, which I think shortens the vowel from memory.
We were tweeting to each other the other day about a couple of extremely good macron-based blogs that you can go to online.
That's right. It was an org address, wasn't it?
Yeah, or an org address, actually, strictly speaking.
While we're just talking about your areas of expertise, Richard, we get a lot of mail every week, email, about your continual references to something called the Gregorian calendar. What exactly is the Gregorian calendar?
Well, it's the internationally accepted civil calendar.
Right.
Well, the Byzantines might have something to say about that.
Well,
Richard,
yes,
or
I
the-
think Pope Gregory XIII dealt with them at the time in 1582.
You don't feel a Julian calendar is a strong contender?
Or the Justinian calendar.
I thought
Or
that
the Pirelli calendar?
I understand that Larry Pickering is doing a Gregorian calendar this year called Careful They Were Starkers.
I can tell you, Christopher Pine is featuring as just a penis.
Oh, you're
And you
joking.
can just see the rest of him peeking out from behind it.
who would have thought?
Larry's still got it.
Inspired by my Priapus, I think, Christopher Pine.
He's never forgotten.
He never has.
No.
You mentioned the Julian calendar. The motivation for the Gregorian reform of calendars was the fact that the Julian calendar assumes that the time between vernal equinoxes is 365.25 days, of course. What's the 2.5 days when you've got a horde of screaming wenches wanting to devour every inch of your body?
Exactly. I think it was known as the venal equinox originally. Yeah.
Olaf, what brings you to Melbourne? this week?
LatinoCon. It's a Latin convention. It's held every 4 years, like the Olympics, of course. So, look, it's a big event. I was doing Latin karaoke last night, which was very fun. My speciality, militae species amor est, which roughly translates to Love is a Battlefield by Pat Benatar.
Patem Benetarum.
One of my specialities, so that went down very well.
Well, it's great that you're able to join us, and congratulations, Melbourne. I understand it is a historically significant city when it comes to the Roman Empire.
It is. We calculated the expansion of the Roman Empire from 200 AD, going through Abyssinia, Mesopotamia. At this very moment, assuming that it would have bypassed New Zealand, Melbourne would be basically part of the Roman Empire today.
Wow,
It's very exciting.
I think there's been some confusion. I thought this was the Latin com where Steamy Jimmy Smits was coming out as the guest of honour, as his character from Dexter, the psychotic district attorney. I've got that wrong, have I?
No, that's another convention, I think,
Okay.
Duncan.
Latino,
series.
Latino con.
Yeah, sorry,
There's
I'm
an O
confused.
or an ooh.
with
You're talking about a Macron.
Yes,
Strike
yes.
that.
Thank you very much for staying up late. I know you've probably got an early start tomorrow morning for
do,
the,
yes.
the convention.
Because I love Latin. I
Thank
speak
you,
it at
Wesley.
home. What is the slogan for LatinCon? Because my Latin isn't good enough quite to understand.
Toga or not to toga is a slogan. Some of us wear tunics, some of us wear togas, or I'm a bit more au naturel. I just wear a Hessian loincloth to the
so
after party.
Traditional earthy Latin.
It is. Look, it's a huge event. You know, whether you speak Latin or not, I urge you to get down to Latino Con.
It's very exciting. I can't wait to hear more about that later tonight. Coming up, we're speaking with Phoebe Square, the lady expert herself when it comes to home date music. But right now, it's time to hear from the old booze hag herself. From the album So Lucky in December 1981, Say I Love You from Renee Gayer. Wonderful tune, wonderful lady. Who would have thought to incorporate salsa and reggae? Wow. It's her biggest hit, reached number 5. What's 5 in Latin, Olaf?
A V. It's a simple V.
Wow. Always learning. You're listening to ABC Radio National here on Saturday night, March 26, according to the Julian calendar and Gregorian calendar. For those Julian lovers out there, we're joined in the studio by a lady expert for the first time. We've been chomping at the bit to get her in to get some advice on music and romance. She is a tastemaker and a incredible musical producer, radio producer, presenter, DJ, mother. I have it on good authority that she's also quite friendly. We're hoping tonight that she'll be able to shed some advice on what we should play on our first date at home when we're cooking for our partners, ladies or men, how we can somehow get them to stay the night. They've come over for dinner, how do we get them to stay the night? I am, of course, referring to the amazing Phoebe Squared, who's actually hopped over from the incredible radio station 3RRR. You hear covert, Phoebe. Welcome to the Lonely Hearts Club.
I am. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for having me tonight.
You look resplendent. Is that the outfit from Cher's If I Could Turn Back Time?
Yes, I've had these seatbelts just extended a little to
Right.
accommodate my chest.
Would that we had a cannon.
You could straddle.
Are we going to discuss how people could stay 2 nights as well as 1 night?
Let's not get carried away, Wesley.
Okay.
Always thinking ahead, thinking ahead. Fee, I wanted to ask, what is the connection between music and love, do you think? I mean, they sort of seem to go hand in hand, don't they?
Well, they do a little, but I think that some people can get a little bit obsessive with
Music or love?
particular music.
Okay.
And sometimes with love, yes. Thank you, Richard. I think that there's a lot of pressure on the first date. And so in this day and age of great technology, I think that a shuffle is a good option, or a mixed tape,
Yes.
as you will, from
Yes.
back in the day.
What was that film with John Cusack where he held the
Say
anything, yeah.
Say Anything? People seem to like that film, don't they? Why is that? John Cusack
well, John
wouldn't be the
Cusack
reason,
for a
would
start.
he?
Well, that particular scene, he's holding a beatbox with In Your Eyes by Peter Gabriel. I mean, is that a magic bullet? Is that one that you could try yourself? I'll whack that one on.
Well, for me personally, if Peter Gabriel came on in a mix set that's maybe somebody else had compiled for me, then that would perhaps put a little bit of a black cloud over the night. I'm not a
What if it
massive
was
Peter
Shock the
Gabriel fan.
Monkey? Because that's...
Well, that moment in time is great.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the only Peter Gabriel I can digest.
Sure.
The music and love, they go hand in hand. You mentioned mixtapes and people writing songs, singing songs, people going on dates. They say that when I saw them, I heard bells and whistles, or birds were tweeting or something. Yeah. I happen to know that when Duncan gets aroused,
here
he
we
hears
go.
this.
Yeah, all right, okay. I don't know how you found that out, Richard, but he's not wrong.
You are a
Perry Como fan.
homosexual.
No, homosexual.
Yes.
Very nice, Wesley.
Good one, Wesley.
I have to say, we're talking about songs, having one song that does it. You're saying put on a mixtape. That's a bit like, a random shuffle.
I'm saying hedge your bets.
Yeah, there's not one song that you could put on that's like a serve all that people can just go, right, she's getting the car keys out, bang, what can I whack on?
Perhaps Cat Power singing Sea of Love.
Right.
I think what Duncan's asking is there the musical equivalent of Rohypnol?
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
Well, that would depend on your musical tastes. you see.
Enya would come close.
Enya, probably not.
Not even
Probably
Orinoco
not.
Flow played very loud, because that can actually
Well, the singing of
paralyse some
Sail
people.
Away, I would suggest would
Yes.
perhaps send somebody sailing away in their car.
Well, on the rare occasions that Olaf or Wesley or myself happen to be entertaining on a home date where we manage to get the boy or the girl to stay or to enter our abode, we try to sort of do something surreptitious and play some music perhaps to, sort of divert them from the fact that what we really want to do is to strip them naked and roll around on the shag pile floor for 4 hours.
Futare, as it's say in Latin, and I apologise to all the Latin scholars listening for that word, but that's
Well,
a Latin term.
I asked the gentlemen to bring in their surefire deal closes, would you say, Wesley?
I'm nervous about playing it now, because on reflection, I'm not sure is the right choice.
Wow. Well, Fee, what do you think of Olaf's choice?
Cittadino, calla la testa, una festa fa preparar. Se tu ragazza, qualche ragazza, te con quella cerca menar, te con quella cerca menar, cerca menar, cerca.
Of course, Don Giovanni, the opera by Mozart.
That was as done at the West Torrens Community Centre 2 years ago.
Right. I'm having visions of perhaps a pasta night with that one, and perhaps Lady and the Tramp style, sharing a piece of spaghetti and meeting at the middle while that's playing.
It's very
I don't think that
fast.
there's...
Opera a good option, though?
Yeah.
I think opera's lovely. Broaden your horizons.
Although, does it suggest that you're saying to the woman she's a fat lady?
Well, always thinking.
Yes, I hadn't thought
careful
about it
with
that way.
subtext.
Well, this, of course, is Wesley's
Oh, dear.
surefire route. John Denver, perhaps Love, from 1981. He's been closing the deal since then with Placido Domingo.
I don't think
Just-
Wesley calls it a root hit, by the way. Yes.
And I would say discussing the deal or envisioning the deal, perhaps, rather than closing. But it's not so much the song as the volume at which I play it.
Right.
Yes.
And how would you play?
I have speakers in every room in the
Right.
house, and it's a bit like Silence of the Lambs. Once you come into the house, it's not easy to find your way out.
No. A little hard to get away from if you don't like it, I must
It just plays very loudly.
That Silence of the Lambs vibe is one the ladies like. I'll often put on
If you
Hip
hear
Priest.
it
by
puts the lotion
fall.
on its skin.
Yeah.
I have a similar CD. It's Pavarotti when he teamed up with John Stevens.
Of
doing,
Noiseworks fame.
yes, doing Nessun Dorma. Those sort of duets I find work well, Wesley. Just people coming from different areas
That's right.
and collaborating.
Angry Anderson, Andrea
Anyone.
Bocelli. That was one of my favourite, doing Suddenly.
And Bound for Glory, Angry Anderson did, of course, with...
Dame Joan Sutherland.
Yes, with backing vocals of Maria Venuti, surprising everybody. Who would have known that she could sing bass baritone?
Venuti is Latin for, what is it Latin for?
Viral, isn't it?
Vinyl, I think.
Viral,
Yeah.
yes. Speaking of the Silence of the Lamb themes, Phoebe Squared, I do like to adopt, I guess, the more begging approach. I simply lock every lock on the window and door and play this.
Please don't go. Please don't go. Please don't go. Please don't. Babe, I love you so.
I mean, I find I'm speaking the truth there. I'm telling
And are you
her
seeing
honestly.
anyone at the moment, Richard? Because that seems a little needy.
I haven't had anyone into my abode of the opposite sex for some time, other than someone from the Australian Tax Office, who was actually just doing a routine check. Apparently, I claimed 14 dependents in the last financial year, and none of them had my surname. An oversight, perhaps, from my accountant, but we'll sort that out when we head to the local magistrates' court in October. Fee, is there surely a song that you could suggest, perhaps, for the four of us to play, or for our Lonely Hearts Club listeners, that encapsulates everything? Would it be an instrumental, or is there an artist aside from Cat Power that you think would enamour the women and the men at the same time?
Well, there's always a little bit of Rock and Rod Stewart if you want, to take away the implication of closing a deal and just put it right out there.
Wow.
Tonight's the Night.
Absolutely.
I never understood what the lyrics were about, but the song, the tune, is very sexy, especially when played on multiple speakers.
Yes, as in your house.
Fee, people come to you like productions and television shows and films and what have you, and they ask you for suggestions for music. Do you perform the songs for them? Do you sing the songs for them?
I much prefer it when they perform the song, so they'll sort of say, it goes a little something like this.
Right.
I enjoy that.
Yeah.
And we tend to nut it out that way and get to the end, and next thing you know, you've got Aberfeldy's Love and Arrows playing in the background, which is lovely, especially for weddings.
And you DJ at weddings, and
Yes.
what's been the most common wedding waltz as of late? I know a lot of people like to have Ronan Keating. When Duncan got married, he had this.
Yeah, well, I was. It was a very arousing day. I don't want people to think that's the only bit of music I like to put on. I find that Richard's mentioned pleading as an approach with a woman. I'll often say to a woman, look, just before you go, let's just put on one record. Just before you just... Not that one. No.
What's that record, Duncan?
I tend to put on Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds, all 6 sides.
My favourite, the moment is suddenly the lid fell off.
Oh,
that is
that's
climax.
amazing,
That is
isn't it?
climax. I defy any woman not to be intrigued.
You've got through the door, I reckon, when that comes on.
Yeah, totally.
The chances of anything coming from Mars.
Fee, I've got a special...
A million to one.
That's a million to one.
A special song. It's me reading the poetry of Ovid set to the music of Dire Straits. If you'd like to borrow that to play at a wedding.
I would. I'm intrigued.
Are those type
Romeo and
of...
Juliet from Dire Straits is a lovely track to play.
Not as good.
Probably
as
not.
good.
I haven't heard it, so
Industrial disease, does that get things
that's
a good one.
going? Yeah.
Calling Elvis.
Yes.
yes.
Can I throw in a left field one? And this seems strange because this is my old school song, but it has worked in the past. And our school song was Popcorn.
Hot butter.
We'd all stand up in our blazers and boaters and go...
Well, that's the funky element,
Wow.
Yeah, well,
isn't it? That you can
that
win
was-
somebody over with your humour.
That was on under your crest, on the coat of arms,
That's
on your
right.
school
That's
emblem.
right.
Doot.
We had to get a new crest after a while.
There's a lot of embroidering.
Yes.
Wow.
Imagine the ones that had Gary Glitter as their theme. That had to be unstitched
They
very
had to be
quickly.
all burnt.
Fee, can you quickly tell us about the time you were arrested in the UK? We do like bad women in here at the Lonely Hearts Club. Have you sorted everything out with that?
Yes, well, they did actually say the words "you're nicked,"
Wow.
which was quite exciting, to be honest, having been a Bill fan in the past.
Were you put in handcuffs?
No, but I was put in a divvy van and taken down to the station where somebody threatened me with deportation. I was arrested for touting.
Touting.
Look that up.
You were touting tickets?
I was actually touting accommodation, breaking a British bylaw, as it happens. So I was arrested by the British Rail Police,
By the bill.
The bill. You fought the law.
the fuzz,
Yes.
And
the
law
filth.
won.
You were on their manor.
I was on their manor.
And you've been back to Britain since?
No, I haven't, but I will one day.
If you go through customs and they put in the computer, does touting come up?
No,
Known
not that I
tout?
know of.
Known touting.
Not that I know of.
So I've only ever heard the phrase "you're nicked" in a sexual context. So that's very interesting. I didn't realise it could be used in another way.
Well, he was trying to pick me up.
Wow.
Fee,
I hadn't thought about it that way.
if you do go back to Britain, I run a classical Kentucky tour. Basically starts off at Hadrian's Wall, parts of Abyssinia, and then we end up recreating Odysseus' journey to Ithaca in a bus with Bacardi breezes. So,
Wow.
On the
But you-
Kentucky tour, they actually play a song every morning at 6 a.m. to wake you up. So what would be the song that you'll be playing on your tour?
well, it's the Ovid set to Dire Straits. It's the
It
only
is,
one I've
yep.
recorded. I haven't sold many, but it is available on
Right.
iTunes.
But
Google
also
Olive.
the priests chanting "Wake me up before you go."
in Latin,
Yes.
completely in Latin. I've set most of the lyrics of Wham into Latin.
That's amazing.
Wham-um.
I'd like to hear a remix of that.
Whammin'.
Women, wow. Well, Fee, of course, we can continue to enjoy hearing you 6 till 9 weekdays on Triple R. If you're not in Melbourne, you can stream it online on the brilliant show, The Breakfasters. Thanks for coming in. Perhaps we'll see you again possibly next week, depending on your busy schedule. What was it like to DJ for Spike Jones?
Amazing.
Wow. You've got a song here that you've chosen that perhaps could potentially... Well, let's be honest, I've chosen it. But
it is one of my favourites. Thank you, Richard.
You could throw to it.
This is Herman June and Baby, Baby, You're My Baby.
Herman Dunn. French duo. He's got an umlaut over the U, or he, as in the band. Wonderful to have lady expert Phoebe Squared talking first home date music.
She could tout here any day.
Wasn't she looking great, Duncan?
Yes. Oh, look, I hope she's left the building. I hope she's not hearing that walking through the foyer past the coat rack with a hat on the top of it pretending to be a security guard here at the ABC.
Wow. We've got more lady experts coming up later in the show. Sally Matherick, naturopath to the stars. We've also got Matilde with another edition of Pillow Talk, helping to spice things up in the bedroom. We've got a wonderful artist, Australian artist, originally from Adelaide, Olaf, the incredible Sam Leach.
I know
will be
Sam's
coming
work.
in to talk about the art of love. But right now it's time to cross the Pacific Oceans to find out all the latest in Hollywood, California.
Live and direct from Hollywood, Los Angeles, with all the latest entertainment, movie news and blues. It's Hollywood Nights with Sir Nigel Higglesworth.
Yes, and Nigel, what a year it's been for Best Actor Oscar winner Colin Firth, with over 20 awards, another 30 nominations for his poignant portrayal of the stuttering king. The acting world seemingly is at his royal feet, so to speak. As a fellow British thespian who's trod the boards with Colin, what is the inside word on what's coming up next for Firthy?
Yes, darlings, wonderful to see some thesps from the little continent being given the role of the hero for once. Long have we toiled in the trenches of villainy. Need a bastard, reach for the old dart, as the saying went. I've not been immune to this. In fact, I've twirled more moustaches than I've had hot dinners. I remember playing Jonathan Small in a BBC TV production of The Sign of Four, a Sherlock Holmes adventure. Ian Richardson playing the titular character. At the time, of course, Auntie Beebe was still producing quality teleplays. And, of course, the pay was drastically better in television, especially for a starving RADA graduate such as myself. A starving RADAist, as we called ourselves at the time, and a wonderful sense of community back then at the TV studios. All the studios had it. I remember the tea lady at Pinewood, one Miss Haversmith, as democratic as a rain cloud she was. She didn't care for your position on the call sheet, only for an orderly queue. In fact, I once witnessed her smack Edward Woodward on the wrist for reaching for a scone in front of an electric or a grip. A wonderful woman, but getting back to it, I'm standing there dressed as Jonathan Small in these frightfully small dressing rooms as the Beeb had at the time.
If it's Hollywood, it's Higglesworth.
Well, it's great to catch up with what Colin Firth is getting up to, and I just have to ask, Richard, do you know on the internet there's the Twitter, I think we're on the Twitter, there's a Nigel Higglesworth account. Now, I'm not sure if it's him.
You're kidding.
It's an odd person to pretend to be, I would have thought.
Well, the British thespian Sir Nigel Higglesworth, the ABC Radio National gossip correspondent.
Yeah, he's got his own Twitter. I'd hate to think somebody is impersonating him. It's just the picture of an egg that you get if you don't actually put a picture up, so I'm not sure if
Look,
it's
if you want to get the original, you just go to abc.net.au/rn/The Lonely Hearts Club.
And that is our official page?
That's the official page.
That's not Hugo Weaving reading out to the man from Snowy River like it was a couple of weeks back.
It could
No,
well
I
be.
like that.
It could well be.
Okay.
But try your luck. I did see Jack Thompson and Bill Hunter hovering over the web page the other day as we arrived here
I
at
think
the
they
ABC
smelled
studios.
alcohol on it.
Oh, great. They were licking the screen. Well, I know you, Olaf, as a Latin teacher. I was recently reading the online newsletter that you contribute to. What's that called? Damnatio?
Memoriae, yes. We will be damned. Our memories will be damned.
Yeah.
I write a small section. It's he says, she says section based on Greek gods. So this week, Apollo and Aphrodite discuss comfort eating over winter.
That's
so
great,
it's a very popular. It's like the big issue, except we pay people a small fee to take it.
That's nice.
In ducats.
Ducats.
Well, one of the articles you had on there was, speaking of gods, was about Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi, a man
Very
who knows
Dionysian.
how to treat a woman.
Or women.
Or women. It says on your newsletter that he's facing a trial next week on April 6 of charges for paying for sex and then using the power of his prime ministerial office to try to cover up the alleged crime. He laughed off allegations he had sexual relations with 33 women, saying, "Do you really think all this is possible? I am 75, parenthesis, in September, close parenthesis, and even though I am a bit of a mischievous one, 33 girls in 2 months is too many. Even for a 30-year-old, it's too many for anybody." I think that was the ticket that he ran on. I'm a bit of a mischief one.
Yes.
That was vote one.
I always find laughing off allegations in court works very well.
It's very hard for him to laugh because his face is as tight as a drum. It's tighter than Sam Newman's face, if you have a look at it.
Well, I think that he has a slip knot at the back of his head to ensure that those jowls stay back there.
Is his middle name Priapus? I think it is.
Well,
Yes.
I was going to say, Wesley, but it is very ancient Rome. What is that?
Silvio Priapus
Berlusconius.
Bacchus
Eros.
Dionysus Berlusconius, yes.
Because orgies of 300 to 400 people weren't uncommon in ancient Rome.
Look, let's not use the word orgies, as we know they are bunga parties.
Correct.
Have any of you guys ever been to a bunga night?
I went to a bunga party
Oh,
once.
just a single bunga?
Yes, where there's a lot of men hoping for a lot of women to turn up.
Right,
But
okay.
so I assume a bunga party is where men and women.
Oh, okay, where it goes off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Berlusconi, he admitted to making payments to the women, but he claimed they were merely altruistic gifts, not payments for sex. He said, "Do you really think I'm going to pay for sex with bank transfers? I am like a charity. I pay for
He
surgery."
refers to women as bank transfers.
I do like his style, but I don't know that that's very endearing. He says here, "I pay for surgery, dentist bills, university fees, and anything else needed." Some of those bank transfers were to pay the mortgages of the parents of one of the girls. They were in dire straits.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
think the girls were in the band. Dire straits, you would think that Mark Knopfler could have paid for
It's
the...
notoriously tight.
Yeah.
Apparently it was the same headband the entire tour of 84 and 85. He refused to watch it.
I saw David Knopfler busking in London 2 years ago.
Did you give anything?
No. I mean, did you not hear their music?
Hang on, David Knopfler. Is he like the Frank Stallone of the family?
He's like the Emilio Estevez.
Although, Emilio Estevez looking pretty good these days. I'm going to have a look at the remastered Men at Work, see if it holds up. Charlie Sheen.
Well, of the claims he invited the women to bunga sex parties at his house, he said they have named 33 women who will spend the rest of their lives with the mark of being prostitutes.
Hang on, so he's making altruistic payments to completely naked women at his house.
That's very generous.
He claims their only crime was to take part in dinners hosted by the Prime Minister, who were there also with 3 musicians.
David Knopfler being one of them, of course.
Frank Stallone on the spoons,
That's right.
and Emilio Estevez was
Doing Pericomo.
doing Pericomo. The girls would then have a dance in the disco on their own because I don't like dancing. Nothing else. Then all this comes out. It's unbelievable.
You know, he sounds strangely credible.
Well, I mean, he has a witness, an unnamed girlfriend whose existence he revealed only this year was always present.
A girlfriend or a bank transfer?
Both. Silvio Close, or Prime Minister, in Latin, his full name.
Ministerium Primo.
Well, he says here, if I had done everything I am said to have done, she would have gouged my eyes out. And I assure you, she has long nails.
It's quite poetic, Wesley.
That is, it's beautiful. It's,
He's a barrel of laughs, old PM,
yeah,
sir.
it is.
It's just very Bacchanalian, isn't it, really? Reminds me of scenes from Boccaccio's Decameron, Wesley. I don't know if you read that in high school.
No, but I've seen the painting, and
very,
I
very
love the
much.
painting. I nodded off halfway through the painting, but the first half of it I looked at was great.
With my ex-wife Felicity, I used to immerse myself in the culture of ancient Rome, even romantic life, and
Yes.
she left me at the point I fashioned a prophylactic out of a goat's bladder. That was the point.
Well, you see, I'm surprised because that says to me you're handy.
Well, right now it's time to hear from a gentleman from Glamorgan in South Wales. His name's David Edmonds, or as some other people know him, Dave Edmonds. Girls Talk. Who would have thought? Dave Edmonds from Wales. You've been to Wales on that Latin Contiki tour?
The classical Contiki tour, yes. We go through all of Britannia. A lot of steam baths.
One of the first albums I got was from Dave Edmonds, from 1968, the Wang Dang Doodle with Love Sculpture.
Classic.
Not his best.
The B-side was The Stumble.
It wasn't Knopfler-esque.
Yeah, now speaking of that, apparently Olaf has been on the internet. What have you discovered?
Duncan, I think you do owe Wesley an apology.
That's all right.
I'm sorry, I wasn't familiar with the full lineup of Dire Straits.
The original lineup.
Turns out what?
John Ilsley.
David Knopfler was part of the first two albums.
Wow, there was a David Knopfler.
There is a David Knopfler.
Poet.
He's a
Yeah,
great
he's
poet.
a poet as well. He left after the first two albums, and he went solo.
Yeah.
You might know his 2006 album, Songs for the Siren.
You might, I think, is the key word in that sentence.
Lips Against the Steel was released in 1988.
It was a conceptual album. He used robots too.
There was, of course, some problems with it when it was revealed it wasn't actually steel. There was another malleable metal, which I think,
Cesium.
allegedly, I must say,
Yes,
for the
yes,
purposes
it's still
of
before the court.
And one more fact about David Knopfler, because I know we are getting several messages on the internet. Brothers in Arms, the archetypal. Mark wrote it about David and their fallings out.
And the thing none of you know is that David Knopfler, like myself, thinks Les Murray is a sham.
Is that right?
In the poetry world, there's the Knopfler-Duchamp Murray-Dorr schism.
See, people listening tonight, I mean, tomorrow they'll be able to tell their friends, I heard the show on Radio National, I learned all about Latin and David Knopfler. Wow, what a show.
Funny you should mention about Les Murray. That's the third song on his 1981 album, Wishbones.
Yeah, I hate Les Murray. I know. It's a polka.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the ABC Radio National. We are the Lonely Hearts Club, here till midnight tonight, joined by the esteemed second unit director, Duncan Jardine.
That's right. Evening.
The incredible poet, Wesley, lowercase d, lowercase e, capital S, Deshawn.
Namaste.
And secondary school Latin teacher from West Torrens in South Australia, Olaf Pinchelbury.
Salve.
Salve to you too. I am, of course, Richard Silk. Got a lady expert in the studio. I am, of course, referring none other than the naturopath to the stars, Ms. Sally Mathrick.
Oh, for God's sake. How is this happening? How is my psyche finding its way onto the actual playlist? Sorry about that, Sally. Welcome back to the program. You probably know Wesley. I don't know if
Hello,
he was
Sally.
here
I've
last
not met
night.
Wesley
Charmed.
before. Lovely to meet you.
Enchanté.
Olaf is here.
Olaf, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Sally.
And these stars that you're the naturopath to, David Knopfler not among them, is he?
As a matter of fact, he's not. I can say
Okay,
categorically.
we'll
I've
cross that
never
one off the
consulted
list.
with
I
him.
can give you his number.
Well, maybe give him mine.
Sally Mathrick, of course, the naturopath to the stars, such as Duncan Armstrong, weightlifter Robert Cabas, and, of course, everyone's favourite summer fill-in, Peter Luck. Hopefully we'll reveal some more before Ep 8, our last and final episode next week. And then Doug Spencer will be returning as of April 9, according to the Gregorian calendar. Sally, you've spoken about wheat allergies in the past. You've spoken about aphrodisiacs. You've spoken about
Gout.
gout, which was a great one. Tonight, I'm busting for some sweet angina. Please tell me. Yes?
Richard, no.
No?
Tonight,
No angina?
No angina. But tonight, instead, I think something which is even more important for some of the lonely hearts out there to learn about, which is halitosis.
Oh, halitosis, from the Latin halitus, which means breath.
Yes.
The osis is a Greek suffix, was a slang for kebab, I believe.
We're learning tonight.
Halitosis. That's bad breath. It's a very antisocial disease.
Incredibly antisocial disease.
How do you recognise halitosis? Or is garlic breath halitosis? Or
I don't believe that garlic breath is halitosis, actually. I think halitosis is more a real rotten, bad breath, as opposed to a bad breath due to a food that's just been consumed. But, then people with diabetes can have bad breath, which is ketosis breath, and that could be confused with halitosis, but actually isn't halitosis. I mean, halitosis is more due to, rotting teeth or gum disease, for example, or some poor oral hygiene. Or it can be due to an infection. If you get an infection in a sore throat, or you get tonsillitis, or you've got a sinus infection, then that can actually create a bad odour.
Mm-hmm. Say you have a night out with a lady at a restaurant, you want both of you to have the garlic, because then if you've both got the garlic breath, it kind of negates it. Right. Would it be advisable for someone with halitosis to exclusively date people with the condition also?
Possibly.
Is that a way around it?
Are you proposing a website?
I'm thinking, halitosisconnection.com.
A dating service.
Yeah.
Look, I have genetic halitosis. I got that from my parents, and it's been an issue for me.
which parents was that, Wesley? Because you were adopted twice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, obviously the original parents, I'm told, by my third parents.
Great.
Yes.
Right. Wow.
That's my understanding of it.
So possibly, Wesley, you inherited an infection from one of your parents, potentially. Or, again, it could very well be a pattern that they're in which has created toxicity within your system, which then you're following on with. I'd suggest that you probably don't have a genetically inherited halitosis. As far as I know, it's not genetically passed on.
I have had my genome tested, and apparently some of my junk DNA is very strongly laced with stench.
Wow.
So,
Yes.
getting back to the garlic, what Duncan said earlier, garlic's actually a wonderful antibiotic, and therefore if you do have halitosis and if it is potentially associated in some way with an infection, then garlic's going to be a very good thing for you.
But if it's incurable...
Yeah, but what she's saying is that if you've got
Nothing's
halitosis,
incurable,
go and get some garlic breath to take the edge off.
Oh, I see, to sweeten it.
Sounds like what you're saying there,
See.
Sally.
Has that affected your love life, Wesley, the genetic halitosis?
Not always, because for me, there is a way to be romantic with halitosis. In my latest book, Bringing My Heart to Heal, Heal, this is a poem that's quite important to me. It's called My Stench Will Go On.
ABC Radio National, world first. The poet Wesley, lowercase d, capital S, Deshawn, with a brand new poem. My stench will go on.
My breath smells like fresh death, my tongue of mouldy dung. My tonsils are quite toxic, something foul lurks in my lung. My lips would make a skunk wretch, my mouth a corpse flower wilt, and yet my heart is pure, dear, is that not on what love's built? Do not diss me for my odour, nor dismiss me in disgust. Simply kiss me, kiss me, kiss me, and only breathe in if you must. And that was my wedding poem to my second wife, Michiko.
That's beautiful. I have always wondered, Wesley, why when you do a reading you position yourself so far from the audience, and now I think we know why.
It stirs me up because this whole issue, some people laugh at halitosis, but for me it's been my life.
Your response to that, a way of dealing with halitosis, is to write verse?
Well, listen, I do think that was a really beautiful poem. I'd really like to commend Wesley on getting that together because it was just really stunning, and I'm sure a lot of people are relating to that. But look, I think that there are cures for, I know that there are cures for halitosis, and obviously the first one is ensuring that your oral hygiene is up to scratch. That might mean you need to go to the dentist and have a scale and clean, like a professional scale and clean, and certainly flossing is one of the things that's very much overlooked, and I believe that is one of the longevity tools that you can incorporate, that people floss live longer.
If you can't afford a dentist-approved tongue scraper, is there a device that we might find at home, a domestic device that you'd recommend?
I use a pestle. It's a very good way of scraping your tongue without going to the dentist.
A pestle?
Pestle.
Italian marble pestle.
Right. I've never heard that before, Olaf. I'd be interested to see how that worked.
There's a lot of ancient Roman cures for halitosis. The Emperor Tiberius recommended kissing a she-mule on the nose.
A she-male, sorry.
She-mule.
Oh, pardon me.
Wow.
Wow.
And what would that do, Olaf?
It was a cure to cure halitosis, just like parsley apparently is, Sally. Is that right?
Yeah, parsley is, indeed. I don't know if there's much of a relationship between those two, but certainly parsley is. And there are other things like chlorophyll, which is a blood deodorizer.
I've used chloroform.
Not quite the same,
dates.
Wesley.
We're not
Yes,
talking
but not
about dating
chlorophyll.
tips again, please.
Sorry.
Also, papaya is another one which is great for digestive health, so that's sort of taking a bit further down.
Is
the
there
system.
corrective laser surgery? Because I'm considering that. Obviously, mine being genetic.
Wesley, I think you probably need to speak to a specialist in terms of this, because as far as I
A laser
know...
specialist.
Yes, a laser specialist, because as far as I know, there wouldn't be. But there are other things you can try. So once you've looked after your your basic oral hygiene, and you could, of course, use a spoon for
A
cleaning your tongue.
transplant? Can you get some sort of transplant?
No, because it's really your mouth and
Of
your
the
lungs.
thorax, what would be transplanted?
Pipes of the soft palate and the uvula. I'm not sure. I think in Russia they do that.
Do you know, I think what would be better for you, Wesley, is just to really embrace a lot of vital, healthy foods and beverages.
Hypnosis? Would hypnosis do it?
Hypnosis could help because there is a psychogenic halitosis.
Yes. That is, of course, a complaint of bad breath that others...
Don't perceive, but the sufferer believes to have.
So if I hypnotise the person I was dating, they would not feel my halitosis.
Well, I don't know if it works exactly that way. However, you could also look at another cause would be infection, potentially. And so if you had infectious halitosis, then you need to look at dealing with those infections. So you need to look at, boosting immune function. Garlic we've mentioned already. We've also got echinacea, angiographis, lots of wonderful antivirals, etc.
Myrrh?
Myrrh is actually the resin from a tree, and myrrh is used in a lot of natural mouthwashes. So again, that's kind of working more on the oral hygiene area.
And
but it can...
halitosis, the reason that the three wise men bought the myrrh for baby Jesus, apparently had shocking breath.
Maybe.
Could have been a she-mule. Could have been a she-mule.
Yes.
So are there
I think
any-
the star was a warning, actually.
Are there any foods that we should steer clear of, Sally? As somebody who likes a traditional Roman meal of fermented mackerel, I mean, would that be a no-go?
Well, Olaf, the fermented element is actually quite good for the digestive tract. I haven't actually heard of fermented mackerel before, so I can't really comment on that. But I do know that if you're eating fermented foods, you're actually bolstering the digestive power, and so therefore the chance of being toxicity and bad breath coming from further down would be eliminated. So I'd say go the fermented food. Not so sure about the fermented mackerel.
There's always an invite.
Thank you.
Sally.
Appreciate that.
Mackerel, my place.
Sally, you always surprise us with what you're wearing and your outfits when you come in here tonight. What are you wearing this evening? It's fascinating. Is it a natural material?
It is natural, Richard, and I wore it because I thought perhaps Dr. Brandon would be here again, and I just wanted to sort of up the professionalism of my profession, naturopathy, because a lot of people consider us to be hippies and...
Rivals. Well, it's a beautiful terry toweling.
Oh, look. Goodness. I'm sorry about that, Sally. Thanks for coming in, by the way. We've learned so much over the course of this segment. Flossing increases lifespan, apparently. There is no such thing as a uvula transplant, and a cure for halitosis, touch a ladyboy on the nose. Great.
Well, Sally, we'll see you next week for our final show, 8th of our Lonely Hearts Club episodes here on ABC Radio National. Sally's fact sheet on halitosis is available on our website, and also your website, which is soundmedicine.com.au. And also you have a Twitter account. What's that? That's @sound_medicine.
That's the one, Richard.
Yes, I think Lone Heart Club is our one. We follow each other, don't we?
We do.
And sometimes not on Twitter as well. Apologies for that.
Terry toweling minx.
Can I also give a plug, Sally, to one of my favourite physicians, Galen? I don't know if you know his work. He's,
Absolutely.
Big brother, Galen.
No, it's an easy mistake to make. He was one of the founding members of modern medicine.
Founding fathers of medicine, that's right.
Perhaps, Sally, you could post some of Wesley, lowercase d, lowercase e, capital S, Deshawn's The Stench of My Breath poem on your website.
I'd love to do that. Maybe
Thank
on my
you.
blog. I'll put it on my blog.
I'd appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank
that'd
you.
be great. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sally. Right now it's time to think of young men. very young men as they embark on the journey of life, probably scantily clad. Their dreams are forming, their hopes are bubbling away, eventually being realised as they realise the world's their oyster. And like the warm glow of a candle, their love flickers bright. However, sometimes in our lives, dreams are shattered, our hopes fade, and the oyster that we thought was our world is contaminated by an oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. And like a candle, the flame of love burns out. Cold. Nothing. You're alone. With this in mind, it's important to take time to stop in our busy schedule and gaze out a rain-swept window as the world goes by and think about all those people who are more successful than us, who are happier, healthier, content, and for whom dreams do come true. It's important to reflect on what might have been and who's done us wrong, and to use that energy against others whenever we can. It's time for me time.
Someday, boy, you'll reap what you sow.
Billy Bragg, off the album Workers' Playtime, Valentine's Day is over. That reached number 18 on the albums chart in the United Kingdom. Little upsetting for him because I know he was aiming for number 17.
Good luck next time, Billy Bragg.
Right now it's time to spice some things up in the bedroom with the language of love, care of our eastern suburbs friend, Mathilde. Here's Pillow Talk.
Sentez bonheur, joie dans le cœur. It's Pillow Talk with Mathilde.
Où est-ce que je dois payer? Où est-ce que je dois payer? Where do I pay?
It's Pillow Talk with Mathilde.
Mathilde does it again.
Yeah, she's getting a lot of fan mail and a lot of offers, I should say. Richard, what is the marital status of Mathilde?
Well, I think she's currently employed by a royal from an emirate.
All right.
In the UAE.
Did you find out which emirate?
I think it's Qatar.
I noticed one offer's come through from David Knopfler.
Streaming live?
Streaming live in the UK.
Yeah. I think it's the name Feta that draws him.
Mathilde Feta.
Yes. Well, it's a redolent name, isn't
French from Latin, surprisingly. The Latin language, you're a secondary high school teacher, Olaf Pinchelbury. What is it that attracts you to the language and the dead languages?
Well, people say that Latin's a dead language, but Commodus, of course, Emperor Commodus, played by Joachim Phoenix, Duncan, in Gladiator.
After whom the commode is named.
The commode and the Commodore. Okay. But there are many inaccuracies in Gladiator. In fact, at the Latin Con tonight, we actually watch Gladiator and laugh our way through the various historical inaccuracies.
I'm sad to hear that.
Because Commodus was never killed by Russell Crowe. He was killed by a gladiator called Narcissus.
Of course, that's wrong.
Aren't Narcissus and Russell Crowe the same person?
I think they might be. But what about the scene where Joaquin Phoenix is texting? That's always rung false to me when I watch Gladiator. It's not true.
But he's texting entirely in Latin.
Oh, okay. All right, so it's period correct.
Yes.
Right.
Futuristic period correct.
I think we're talking art, aren't we, at any moment now?
We are talking
the art of love with a wonderful artist, Sam Leach. Be dropping into the Lonely Hearts Club right after this song from the author of Swing, a multimedia release combining a novel with a music CD providing clues to the mystery.
That's poetry.
Yeah. Such scan.
Wesley, I didn't realise you were a singer.
Oh, no, Richard, no.
Well, that was off the album Partners in Crime by Rupert Holmes. And interesting bit of trivia about that track. And it has the distinction of being the only single to rise to the number one position in different decades.
Wow. How did that happen? Was it on a film or something? Did it come out again?
It was the number one song at the end of 1979.
Oh, right, that old trick. Yeah.
Then on the 5th of January 1980, KC and the Sunshine Band's Please Don't Go, my old staple, hit number one. And then Escape, parenthesis, the Pina Colada song, close parenthesis, returned to number one on January 12th.
I think technically Bohemian Rhapsody, on account of its length, was also number one over 2 decades.
Wow.
I think same goes for Evie, parts 1, 2 and 3.
Oh, yeah.
That was, it's almost 15 years.
Yeah.
Rupert Holmes, an incredible man. Speaking of incredible men, we have a very special guest here this evening joining us in the Lonely Hearts Club. He's come all the way from the Australian Tax Office originally. Of course, I am referring to none other than the brilliant and one of the top 50 most collectible artists in Australia that appears to be breathing. I presume that doesn't include posthumous artists. Probably it does. Hopefully you're better than dead artists. Sam Leach, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Lonely Hearts Club.
Thank you, Richard. Thanks very much for having me on.
Sam, let's get straight to it. It's a bit of a white elephant. You're only the third artist in the history of the Archibald and the Wynne prizes to win both in the same year after William Doble, Brett Whiteley and now Sam Leach. So that was 1948, 1978 and now 2011. There's a great sequence there. I guess some could say they could have predicted it.
Spooky.
I think the Mayans did.
Yeah, wow. How does that work? What's the difference between the Archibald Portraiture Prize and the Wynne's prize, which is a landscape prize? Is that right?
That's right, yeah.
What qualifies one versus the other?
Well, usually the portrait is humans, whereas the landscape is more generally trees.
Strange.
Well, I'm glad we've got that sorted out.
Wow.
What celebrity did you paint for the Archibald?
That was Tim Minchin.
Tim Minchin. Do you find that it kind of turns into a popularity competition? Kind of like the Logies. People going, that painting's good, but I do prefer that celebrity.
Yeah, there's definitely an element of that. And I know the first time I was in the Archibald, I painted Jeff Kennett.
Oh, yeah.
And the response was nowhere near as favourable.
Yeah, because I'm told that John Wood gets painted every year and never wins. That's what I'm told. He's sick of sitting for it.
Yeah.
Sam, you painted Tim Minchin. You met him in London in his house. How does it work with painting? I mean, I know there's great movements like the Fauves and the cubes. I quite like paintings that look like photos. Your photo-esque painting of Tim Minchin, I actually thought that was a photo. Is that why you won?
I think the accuracy of the painting probably appealed to the judges somewhat, yeah.
Is there rules for entering the Archibald? Do they have to be a well-known person? Does it have to be 10 foot by 8 metres?
There's a maximum size limit.
To the person or the painting?
To the painting, I think. I don't think there's any restrictions on the size of the person. And the rules state it's preferably someone who is well-known in arts, letters or science. But it does have to be a living Australian.
All right, then. I have to ask it. I know he's a guest, but I'm sorry. Why not Greg Evans?
Well, you know, of course...
There's been a lot of controversy about this, so can you answer that question?
I would have loved to have, worked with Greg, but, you can't always get what you want.
No.
Yeah, well...
Yeah, I think, look, they should start introducing a gimmick aspect, much like Tropfest.
Oh, yes.
Like, why not one year disgraced celebrities only?
Yes.
Ricky Nixon, Maddie Newton, that lot.
Toddy Goldsmith.
Yeah,
Toddy
that's
Goldsmith, although it wasn't her gear that was in the pocket.
And
Let's
then
point that
the
out.
next year... Forgotten celebrities.
Forgotten celebrities. Like
Where
a guess.
are they now?
You have to look at the picture and you actually have no idea who it is.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, it's Alex Paps. Of course it is.
Nick
George
Buffalo.
Smalovicci.
They could hide something in the painting. There could maybe a signature item. Perhaps like a dwarf. James White does that, the Australian artist. Hides a gnome in his painting.
Or
Right. Or
Larry Pickering-esque. Now, there's a great artist, no disrespect, Sam, but Larry Pickering, he made art accessible in the same way as I made poetry accessible. Could we not have famous Australians naked.
Yeah, why not a careful there, stark as Archibald?
I think that would be a lot of fun, especially for the artists.
Yeah.
Have you painted, still life, Sam, nudes?
Yeah, of course. During art school there is the obligatory life drawing classes, so there's a lot of nude work in there. Yeah, and I've done a bit of that stuff over the years.
Yeah.
Sam, you mentioned over the years you grew up or were from Adelaide?
I grew up in Adelaide.
I
yes.
actually taught Sam Latin, St Wilfrid's College in West Torrens.
A good student, a diligent student?
Well, Sam, do you remember any of the Latin
Well,
phrases,
I've
the
got
declensions?
Post hoc ergo proctor hoc, propelle cutum.
See?
Wonderful.
Good story. Very good student.
Very dry Latin wit there.
We should all charge our glasses and bebit.
And what do you paint with, Sam? What are your favourite? I mean, you are oils, watercolour.
Oil, yeah. I work almost entirely with oil paint. Yeah.
In ancient Rome, it's a true fact, when they painted with the colour purple, they used to squeeze a sea whelk onto the wall. If painted with fish or any byproducts from animals.
I think some of that purple pigment is still available on the market. Quite pricey now, of course, and a bit smelly. Yeah.
Look, I'm sure what you do is technically very accurate, and that's great. But it's not my kind of art. What do you think of monkey paintings? Because what they do to me is extraordinary.
This is painting by monkeys, rather than of monkeys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting work. I like the elephant painting myself, with the elephant holder with the brush. But,
they're very derivative to me.
And monkey photography. There's been some interesting work in the last couple of years as well.
They throw their poo at the lens often.
Yeah, or just giving a monkey a camera.
Sam, I wanted to, ascertain, you worked at the Australian Tax Office and you stopped doing art classes in high school in Year 9. How did you find your way back to the art as a occupation and a profession? And secondly, what do you claim in your income tax?
Well, I think I kept doing a lot of painting and drawing while I was studying economics and working in the tax office. And one of the great things about working in the tax office is that you do get quite a bit of flexi time, and there's plenty of days off and opportunities to go and do different things. So I took advantage of that and started studying art at university part-time while I was still working there. So that's really how I found my way back into working as a professional artist. Luckily, while I was working in the tax office, I didn't learn anything about tax itself. So nothing useful really from my experience there.
What was your job there? Were you writing legislation or were you actually auditing?
No, I was doing forecasting, but I was forecasting the number of people that needed to work in the tax office.
Wouldn't mind a chef. Maybe you could do our lunch.
Has the tax office, Duncan, ever done a sting on second unit?
Yeah, we're constantly being hauled through the mill, and I'm still answering questions for lenses I claimed on the Bob Morrison show many years ago. I'm sure that's been through your desk.
We heard about that.
Yeah. Hey, Sam, can I ask, do you ever say to yourself, bugger this painting caper, why not just get a frozen cow, slice it up into very thin bits and seal it in Perspex and call that a painting?
It does sometimes seem a bit tempting to do that. And, there's a long tradition, of course, of the ready-made. And often when I'm down at a hardware shop or a supermarket, I'll see something that looks interesting and think, that could be a work.
Just put that in Perspex.
I'll just buy it and, pop it on a plinth.
Wow, that's good, isn't
Sam, again, I don't mean to be disrespectful. I can only admire your journey from the tax office, but you've won the Win and the Archibald, and well done. But really, the Suleiman is the one, isn't it? I mean, the other two are pretty much pushovers.
Yeah, I've wanted to win the Suleiman for a long time.
Are you going to have a go? Actually have a go?
Well, I'll need some time, I think, to really go in depth in my practice to take a tilt at that one. It's not something you can rush into.
You're not really an artist to live on the Suleiman.
Well, I think, yes, there is an element of the Suleiman as a rite of passage. Certainly.
Sam,
good luck with that.
We, of course, know that artists are bohemian in every manner. How has being an artist affected your romance and love life? Is it one and the same?
Well, I'm a happily married man, luckily. And I'd say the only thing is that occasionally it has put a little bit of strain on the relationship. The long nights, the tortured soul aspect of being an artist can be rough on a relationship. But we're still doing okay so far.
Is it something that you are trying to bring up at the dinner table with your wife, that perhaps you'd like to recreate Jimi Hendrix, Electric Ladyland, insert yourself amongst 40-odd women naked, draped over themselves. How does one go about
Berlusconi.
Berlusconi-esque. Is that something that you're sort of working towards, or are you sticking with fully clothed celebrities?
So far, it's fully clothed, but
Could get a bit more Lindsay-esque, perhaps.
yeah, I think going more into the sensuous side of the art is very tempting.
Well, perhaps we might be able to get a couple of our Lonely Hearts Club members who are on the phone to have a chat with you about how perhaps they could incorporate some art into their romance. Perhaps if you wouldn't mind sticking around having a chat to them after this break.
Sure, yeah, I'd love to.
Great. 2010 Archibald Prize winner Sam Leach in the club. Wonderful. And he'll be
Not
chatting.
Suleiman.
He'll be, well, Wesley, please.
Well,
Consider
just
it.
saying.
He's come all the way from Melbourne. Right now, it's time to stop and reflect. Time to think about a time that was. When you were happily married. Those single men out there. When you had access to your children. Before you went to Prague on that business trip and ended up doing that thing on the Charles Bridge. And as a result, no longer have a marriage or a job or a company credit card. Most importantly, you no longer have access to your children. This one's to remember the good old days, when you could play with your son and daughter.
I've got my dancing pants, now I'm gonna dance. Thank you very much.
Yes, Justine Clark. She's so great. Anna Goanna in the 1985 film Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
I didn't get a gig on that.
You sure? You didn't?
No, I was doing second unit for Tony Kinane on Turkey Shoot at that time and
With
prepping for dead-end driving.
You just shot Linda Stoner's left breasts.
I'd love to say that I could put that on the show reel because it's a beautifully evocative shot. I think of all the shots of a Norg being struck by a crossbow in the history of cinema, that one's at the top of the tree.
I agree.
Roger Ward, of course, from Turkey Shoot. Also Chief McAfee from Mad Max.
Oh, that's right.
In the first film.
Yeah, although I don't think he got sliced in half in Mad Max quite the same way.
The Justine Clark track going out there to all the single fathers who no longer have access to their children.
Great.
For a misdemeanour in Western Europe.
Hello, guys. Have we got some callers on the line, have we, Richard?
We do have some callers on the line.
Not to mention our guest.
The wonderful and incredible and very collectible Sam
Non-Suleiman
Leach.
winning.
It's time to hear from you, the listener. We have some wonderful Lonely Hearts Club members who have called our hotline. Kate from Adelaide, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, guys. How are you today?
Good, Kate.
Fantastic, thank you. Kate, how do you incorporate art in your dating life?
Well, I've actually had a really nice experience going on a date and doing a calligraphy class.
Right.
And,
Wow.
it was really nice because it was something that was quite unique to the two of us. And because we couldn't actually speak through the duration of the class, there actually was quite a lot of tension, and because we had quite a lot of attraction between the two of us, it actually led into quite a nice evening after we finished the class.
Calligraphy. Sam, what do you think of calligraphy?
Oh, well, I'm wondering whether that's calligraphy with a pen or with the old brush and ink.
Kate?
It's actually with the old brush and ink.
Oh, lovely.
Actually,
Yeah.
Yeah, at an old monastery, Buddhist monastery.
Wow.
So it's
Oh,
quite
fantastic.
a traditional form.
And why weren't you able to speak, Kate?
Just sort of out of respect for the Buddhist monks, they've sort of asked us to really focus on the actual artistic styles.
Right, and Kate, did you spend the evening sending each other beautifully rendered obscene notes?
We did, actually.
And how'd that end up?
It ended up on a real positive note. I'll leave it at that.
Great.
Positive note.
A lot of stroking involved.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Kate. And Adelaide, we're sending our best wishes to the community of West Torrens.
West Torrens, the Latin community of West Torrens.
Right.
It's ever growing.
That voice belonging to Olaf Pinchelbury, the secondary school Latin teacher who is joining us here on Lonely Hearts Club tonight. Paul in Portland, how are you this evening?
Not too bad, thank you.
Paul, how do you incorporate art into your love life?
Well, I do very well, thank you. Well, I do a bit of watercolour painting.
Oh, yes.
Is that a euphemism, Paul?
No, I actually do it.
Oh.
And any particular subject that you like to render?
Well, I do portraits of my loved ones.
Yes.
And the big mistake, of course, is of your spouse if you paint her, because she never likes what she sees.
How do you paint your spouse there, Paul?
Oh, well, as I see her.
Oh.
But she doesn't see herself as what she sees.
Right.
Are you a cubist, Paul?
Both eyes on one side of the nose?
Yes, I like that.
Do you paint her in a reclining position or standing, or what sort of background would you use, Paul?
Well, last time I painted her was with a baby in her arms.
Oh.
Suggestive.
Yes.
Mother and child, I called it.
Whose child was it? It's quite difficult to paint children, isn't it?
It is actually difficult to paint children. And Paul, I don't know if you find the challenge of actually getting them to keep still while you're actually making the portrait.
The baby was asleep.
Ah, that's a good technique.
Massive doses of Phenergan.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Have you painted your wife, Sam?
A long time ago, yeah, I did paint her, and it was a very intimate portrait.
You didn't paint on the bikini to make it look as if she was wearing one? No, that's just...
I painted my first wife, Michiko. I actually painted her when she was sleeping.
Oh, I thought she was your second wife.
No, my first wife, Michiko, my second wife, Konika, my third wife, Michiko.
Okay.
Apologies. I lost...
Anyway, she was very angry that I painted her, because I painted her as though she was naked, because she would never be naked with me. Anyway, it was not a good thing.
It was a triptych of sorts, wasn't it?
It was.
She had issue where the joins were.
Well, she thought I painted better hips on her than she had.
Great. Paul, you're in Portland. Whereabouts is Portland?
Down by the South Australian border.
Oh, yes, the Great Australian Border.
Mount Gambier.
Oh, the Blue Lake.
Home of Dave Graney. And Paul, may we ask, where could we see some of your art, potentially?
Oh, well, I've got heaps of it at home.
Oh, well, we'll put your address up on our website, and of course anyone from Corindi to Queensland and Margaret River to Manly will be popping by Portland to view your work in the garage.
Before you go, Paul, can I ask, if you were to paint in the Archibald Prize, what celebrity would you choose?
What about our Prime Minister?
Bob Hawke.
No, the one with the big nose.
Oh, Malcolm Fraser.
He was from the Western Districts, Malcolm Fraser.
Not a blue blood there, Paul, in Portland?
Squadocracy is.
Great. Well, all the best with the watercolours.
It's not a gastro condition, in case you're wondering.
Looking forward to your next exhibition, probably in the garage. Yvette in Melbourne. How are you this evening, Yvette?
I'm very well. How are you guys?
Great. You've got a beautiful voice.
Oh, look, I'm sorry about that event. That has been triggered by Richard Silk. That's not a reflection of what's going on in my trouser.
That's okay. I love your show anyway.
Yvette, how do you get the art going in the romantic stakes?
Well, one thing I've tried is to draw each other over coffee, and there's lots of permitted eyeballing.
Are you dressed as you're doing this?
Depends which date. I'd say if it was like first, second, third, yeah. But once things get a little bit more intimate, you can do other things. Actually, one relationship ended. Well, it was precipitated because he wouldn't sit still during a bit of life drawing.
That can be very frustrating.
Can it?
Yes.
Yeah, really.
Is there something, Yvette, is there a material that you use, did you say?
I'll look for, if you're going out on a date or going to a cafe or a bar, I'd take a sketchbook and pencils. But I generally am an oil painter.
Mm-hmm. As is Sam?
Yeah, but it is semi-portable, but you wouldn't really want to set up in the middle of a busy...
No, it's very challenging to use oil paints over coffee, I must agree. Wow. But the drawing, that's a great idea. Do you take along a spare sketch pad for your date, or just the one sketch pad?
Yeah, no, sometimes I have, or I just, get a fresh page in mind. I'm like, can you do a drawing of me? But recently I was seeing someone who was also an artist, so we'd go out and both bring our sketchbooks, which was great. But I don't think you have to be an artist to do that. It's not about the outcome at all. It's just the process of looking.
Very much so.
More important.
I think it is about the outcome, but I have tried that same technique about saying, could we do life drawing classes? And the only thing is I've forgotten to actually have anything to draw with or on, and it doesn't go as well as I would have liked.
Imagine that we would be drawing here instead of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Sure.
There are adult texters you can get called sexters.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Great.
Which, again, they've never worked for me, but I hope they will.
Edible ink or something.
Lickable.
I drew a life drawing of my ex-wife, Felicity. It was a fresco. Unfortunately, it was on the side of the Sturt SAFL club. And some authorities got involved and
it was in
scrubbed off.
direct contravention of the court order, is what I heard.
Within the 800 kilometres.
I remember you
Exclusion
telling
zone.
me that you did a mosaic of a girl you really fancied, but by the time you'd finished it, she was married.
And she'd moved interstate. It was very Etruscan.
It's a waste of tiles in the end.
Yvette, who would you paint if you were to enter the Archibald next year, or this year? Is it too late? Isn't it announced in May?
There's still a couple of weeks left,
Couple of
actually, for
weeks
the
left.
deadline. Yes.
April, I think it's announced. I've just finished one, but I've been hung twice, and the last guy I painted, you'd know, is John Safran.
Oh, okay. He's an ABC presenter.
Yes, he's not popular, but people know him.
And who was the other one?
Paul Capsis.
The singer.
She's great.
Yeah.
And I painted them both topless, but it wasn't a sexual thing.
And they had no problem with you being topless?
Well, look, actually, John took a fair bit of convincing. He sort of made a compromise. He said, sure, but give me 3 months. I need to go to the gym and work out.
Oh, is that right?
Well, thank you so much, Yvette, and always great to chat to a fellow artist. Wesley's very happy, and Duncan, of course, is who you'll know.
Here we go. Oh, for goodness sake.
Enchanté.
That's my
mes amis.
15th one in this show.
We're going to need a blood transfusion.
Well, we'll let you do your thing shortly, Duncan. Kate in Adelaide, Paul from Portland, Yvette from Melbourne. Thank you very much for all your calls. Sam, are you entering this year's Archibald?
No, I'm going
allowed?
to have a gap year,
Yes.
perhaps a gap couple of years from the Archibald, and just concentrate on some other projects.
The Suleiman,
as well.
maybe?
Well, yeah, I'm thinking about the Suleiman, but it does take a very special work to crack the Suleiman.
Yeah, it does.
4 years Sam's been a finalist in the Archibald in succession. Any tips for any would-be entrants?
I always think a full-length portrait goes down very well.
Yours was quite small of Tim's, wasn't it? Tim
It was,
mentioned?
yeah. It was a smaller scale painting.
Less is more. Sam, just in closing, where can we see some of your work, or potentially even steal it?
Well, I've got a show coming up in Hong Kong at the end of May.
Great.
And then a show in Sydney in October.
Just quickly, how does that work? Do you have to pay people a commission, or perhaps you're seeking new representation? I know some people that would be interested in laundering some excess disposable income, perhaps?
Well, maybe we can talk off air about that.
Great.
You'd be able to use a few tax loopholes, wouldn't you, with your background accepting cash for your painting?
Well, of course, I know a few people in the office, so there's possibilities, yeah.
There was that inducement to spend money, the tax incentive, that a lot of doctors and dentists were buying fine art and hanging it in their waiting rooms for 12 months before transferring it to their Bellevue Hill lounge room.
My dentist had Guernica.
Wow.
For a few months, yeah.
Wow, that's Picasso.
Yeah. See, that's the trouble with the dentist waiting room. It's always old stuff, isn't it?
That's right.
Can't you get some new paintings in here?
Well, thank you so much, Sam Leach. It's been wonderful to chat with you, and we wish you all the best in your personal marriage and your professional pursuits. Thanks so much for coming into the Lonely Hearts Club, Sam Leach.
Thanks very much for having me.
Thanks, Sam.
Right now, we've been threatening to do it all evening. We're going to stand back and watch Duncan Jardine do his thing. Perry Como. Wonderful singer. Duncan, never seen you sweat this much.
I don't think we should ever play that song again. All of our remaining one episode.
Yes, of course, we're finishing next week here on ABC Radio National, our 8th and final episode. However, we are available on podcast for the next 11 months on the iTunes website, where we had some great news. Last week, we hit number 1.
On the health charts. at iTunes. I think it's still there, actually.
Wow.
Possibly.
And also new and noteworthy.
Wow, did we make NNN?
We were first.
Wow.
Yes, we were first above meditation for running.
Is there a poetry section on the iTunes there?
No, there isn't. I
for Wesley?
actually enjoy the health section, and Dr. Johnson's Scabs and Music is my favourite.
Yeah, that's still holding in the top 10.
Yeah, wow, Sam, for short, Dr. Sam, Scabs and Music, great. Olaf, I know that you're a big fan of Duncan Jardine's work. What were some of your favourite shows?
Felicity and I, before the acrimonious breakup, we used to, talk in Latin. So I would always say to Felicity, it's 8:30 time for Aqua Rodentus, which you would know as...
It's water rats,
Water
of
rats.
course. Yeah, I did a lot of second unit there.
We were also a massive fan of Urbanus Homicidium.
Oh, City Homicide, of course.
Wow.
I'm famous for my establishing shots. Whenever you see Borny looking at something, that's what I filmed.
And finally, short-lived, I know you worked on it, Bonum Homine, Malum Homine.
Wesley,
That's a good...
Good
guys,
bad guys,
yes.
with Marcus Graham, of
And
course.
I have pushed
Latin
for a
lost me.
Latin caption service over all those programs for Latin scholars.
What's Latin for the Bob Morrison show?
Canis
Morris.
Yeah.
Murdus.
Canis Morrisonus short-livedus.
Duodenum substratum.
What's that?
Underbelly.
Oh, of course it is.
Of course.
We're
One of the
learning
greats,
tonight,
yeah.
aren't we, Richard? What
The
a great
golden mile.
bunch of guests we've had. I have to say, we're going to have Terry and Lucas back next week, but it's been terrific having Wesley Deshawn.
Thank you.
And
Thank you,
Olaf as well.
Olaf Venturbury, thank you so much for coming in this evening. Thanks also to the wonderful Sam Leach, an incredible artist who dropped into the Lonely Hearts Club this evening.
Good
and
luck with the Suleiman.
Chatted to our Lonely Hearts Club members, Kate, Paul and Yvette. We'd also like to thank our lady experts, Phoebe Squared and Sally Mathrick.
I hope that's the last one. I need to lie down. It's exhausting, this program.
What's on this week for you, gentlemen? You got something back in West Torrens, Olaf?
I'm launching my Latin Grams service. You can either have me come along in Latin and wish you Beatum Diem Natalem, which is a happy birthday, or just a fat person rocks up in a toga.
Oh, fair
which
enough.
is slightly more expensive.
Probably the latter. Wesley, no doubt you're changing the literary landscape this week.
Well, as a matter of fact, I'm pursuing my other love, which is hensai, bonsai, which is taking trees and shrinking them. Hensai is the ancient Japanese art of taking very small things and making them feasibly large. So I'm going to be entering a garden pea, which is 3 metres in diameter at the South Coast District Bonsai and Hensai Royal Show.
Wow.
So that's big for me. If I win that, that's the open barleys and legumes division. I could go to Adelaide for the final and catch up with you, Olaf.
Wow,
Be fantastic.
That's a massive P.
Duncan, what adventures are you on in the Australian television second unit landscape this week?
I'm working on a very interesting project. I'm sure everyone remembers years ago when MASH wound up. There was a series called After MASH.
Yes,
which
Radar and Father Mulcahy.
Just the three of them, I think, working together. Well, as we know, Packed to the Rafters was wrenched off our screens rather brutally a couple of weeks back. I'm going to be working on After Rafters, which at this stage only stars Carbo. And I think the plot is Carbo opens his own sports bar. I think we'll call it Carbo's Place. Or maybe Everybody Comes to Carbo's.
Another John Holmes Bevan-Lee winner.
That's going to be a corker.
John E. Howard or John F. Howard?
We've got John Orksick, sadly. Yeah.
Can't wait for that one. And all the best, of course, with your onset occupational health and safety. We are the Lonely Hearts Club, and we will be here for one more week. This has been March 26th. 3 wonderful authors and artists died on this day. American novelist Raymond Chandler, the brilliant Noel Coward, and Easy Mofo E.
It was a very odd car accident that all three of them should be involved.
Well, we're thinking of you on this day and wish your estates the best in running the many requests they have for remembrance and memorial packages. We look forward to chatting with you all next week here on ABC Radio National. Our Twitter avatar is at Lone Heart Club. We've been twittering throughout tonight's show and will for our next one. We look forward to hearing from you throughout the week. And until next Saturday, April 2nd, according to the Julian calendar, my name is and was Richard Silk. And as we say here at the Lonely Hearts Club, may all your love be free of cost. Right now, it's Trevor Chappell.